Hello, I'm Caroline Marshall, and welcome to Bump to Business Owner, the podcast speaking to mums in business, you. I'll be in conversation with some of the most inspiring women and mothers in enterprise about their journey, how they created their successful businesses alongside raising their children, and what that looks like in work and family life. Hello and welcome to Bump to Business Owner. I'm your host, Caroline Marshall, and today I'm joined by an extremely long overdue guest on the podcast, someone whose journey combines resilience, motherhood, and deep purpose. So well known in the VA industry, she's often referred to as simply the Amanda Johnson. Amanda is a Royal Navy veteran turned entrepreneur, NICU advocate, and the woman behind the VA Training Academy, also known as VACT, the go-to training provider for the VA industry. After 23 years in the military, Amanda left service following a personal tragedy. She went on to found Your Executive Secretary, a virtual assistant business she grew while juggling babies and young children, expanding from a solo operation to a team of 17 before selling the business in 2016. She then shifted her focus fully to VACT, embarking on a mission to empower women, especially mothers, tree spouses, and career changers to build flexible, sustainable VA businesses. In 2021, she also acquired the UK VA Conference and Awards, and at the time of recording, she's in the middle of final preparations for the 2025 event in Bournemouth. Amanda's coaching style is practical, honest, and full of tough love, grounded in lived experience and a deep understanding of both business and life's complexities. Her academy has become a lifeline for so many navigating motherhood, grief, and reinvention, and I am including myself in that, offering not just business training, but also mindset support, community, and real-world strategy. A mother of 2 boys and a passionate advocate for those navigating baby loss and NICU journeys, Amanda brings a rare combination of empathy and clarity to the conversation around entrepreneurship and motherhood. What an intro, Amanda.
No, is that me?
You cringe it. You dying.
No, but it's a journey, actually.
It is.
It is a huge journey.
A huge journey. And I don't know, I get chills every time I think about it. I'm probably going to be a mess by the end of this one, because I just can't believe I've been with you at the start of my journey as well, Amanda, and how many people can say that about their VA businesses and what you followed them through. So I'm really, really excited for today. And I think we've had this with, I think, some past guests, but coming from the Royal Navy to the VA world is definitely a place to start, because you were just 17 when you started in that. So can you take us back to Amanda in those early military days and how they shaped who you are? And did you ever imagine you're here now where you started, where you would have come to?
So if I look back, I've always wanted to join the military. So from about the age of 8 or 9, I was joining the military.
Was it in your family or anything?
It was, but it wasn't in my family that brought me up, if that makes sense. I come from Penzance in Cornwall. Girls in those days were expected to do a hairdressing course, retail, or a secretarial course. And I remember it being about 12 or 13 and saying to my careers advisor, I don't want to do that. I want to join the military. And him saying to me, no, girls don't join the military. And me saying, well, this one is. And so from a very young age, I wanted to join the military. And there was a couple of reasons. 1, I wanted to get out of Cornwall. 2, they wore a uniform and they got paid every month. And when you come from a county where you are relying on fishing or tourism or those sorts of things, there was an awful lot of people that didn't get paid through winter months or whatever. So from a very young age, I wanted a career that I could do things and go travel the world and all of those things. So when I actually joined the military, well, when I applied, girls didn't go to sea. But by the time my date came in to join the military, I was actually the second lot of girls to do mixed training with a view that we were always going to go to sea. That was October 90, coming up to my my military birthday soon. And I literally joined the Navy at age 17 and worked my way up through the ranks. Got to lead in hand, which is effectively almost the first tier, first promotion that you can get in the Royal Navy. And it was going to be about another 8 years before I could get the next level, which was petty officer. So I was like, well, I'm bored. And so there's a theme here, isn't there, really? I had a couple of options. 1 is I could leave the military. 2, I could wait 8 years to get promoted. Or 3, I could apply for my commission and become an officer. So I applied for my commission, became an officer. So that was in 1997. and I worked my way through the ranks as an officer. So did I ever believe I'd be an entrepreneur or self-employed? No, I was a career military person through and through. When you joined the military back then, you signed a contract for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes, which we used to have something called return of service. So there were certain points where you could give notice to leave. But you think like in the VA industry, if we want to terminate a client, we give 1 month's notice or 3 or 6, depending what we've written into the contract. The military in those days, it was an 18 months notice. So if you wanted to leave, you had to give them 18 months notice. But actually, most people joined for a career. They joined, and that's what I did. I joined for a career. Never in a million years did I think I'd be sat here as a self-employed person doing that. I thought I'd be traveling the world and having fun, which I did.
I guess a bit kind of similar to what I think a lot of entrepreneurs identify with. It's a bit of a life, isn't it? Being in the, like, you did marry someone in the Navy, didn't you, as well? It's not just your career, it becomes your life. So I guess that's why people stay as well.
It is, and it becomes a family. So my husband actually was Army. He wasn't Navy.
Oh,
He was
sorry.
Army. That's right. It's always good fun in Army, Navy, rugby in our house. But most people join for a career, a lifestyle, and things like that. And people say it's a young man's game. And what they mean by that is actually you go out and you give everything to do what you do. And you're also good at what you do because of the discipline and the core values that get really embedded in you from a young age. So when people say to me, oh, what's your core values? I always say, you could literally cut me down the middle and they're going to be stamped through me like a stick of Blackpool rock because they come from those days and you live life by them. And you know me well enough to know that's still true today. My core values are what's really important for running a business as an entrepreneur. It's like, it's interesting. I never ever described myself as an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur, but I never ever use that label to go, that's me. And it's always an interesting one. But they are the things that help us do well in business.
When you left, it was down to a heartbreaking family tragedy, wasn't it? That we were going to talk a little bit about. You had was it your children was the reason? So Imogen and Oliver were their names? And yeah, tell us a little bit about your story.
I was never having children. I was not a maternal person. Andrew and I was in the Royal Navy. Andrew was in the Army. We were enjoying military life.
Oh, so you decided that together as well? That wasn't the plan?
No, we were never having children. So in 2003, we were both serving in Iraq. I was serving on HMS Ark Royal. Andrew was serving ashore in the desert, as he would describe. He would say I wasn't on the front line, but that's a whole different debate for military people. Where is the front line of a maritime unit? But we were never having children, but we came home from the Gulf in 2003, where we had both seen some horrible things. I had lost 7 friends on my ship whose deaths I administered. I packed up all this stuff to go home to their families and everything else. And we came home from Iraq and off we toddled to Fuerteventura. And because we'd come home from Iraq and everybody wanted a piece of us. And we just wanted to be together and we needed to decompress. So we went off to Fuerteventura, bought a house whilst we were out there, as you do on holiday, post-war. And at that point, we realised that we wanted children. And even though up until that point, we never wanted kids, they were never on the agenda, something had changed during Iraq that had gone, actually, no, do you know what? We want kids. So fine, you do all those things that you try and have babies and all of that. And then we found out we couldn't get pregnant. And that was a stressful journey in itself. I developed tinnitus as a stress response and things like that, which we now think it was a stress response. But we got accepted for IVF and we were told IVF would start in 2009. There was a couple of years waiting list. We got told IVF would start in 2009. So I carried on with my military career, got promoted to Lieutenant Commander, joined a ship that was in the Caribbean doing anti-drugs and humanitarian relief, and that was fine. Came home from that. Andrew and I went off to Fuerteventura again. There's a theme here. Came home from Fuerteventura pregnant with twins. But when you're serving on a maritime ship, you're not allowed to be on the ship pregnant, because if something happens or goes wrong in that pregnancy, the ship has to stop dead in the water. So the Navy just don't let you go to sea. So my ship got activated to sail and I couldn't go with it. So I got landed to a shore job, all of those sorts of things. Fine. And then, unfortunately, on the 6th of June 2008, and Oliver were born extremely prematurely. And as I went into labour, which I didn't even realise was labour at that point,
How many weeks was that?
4 plus 5.
Yeah.
So the hospital had said to me, do you want to save one baby's life or two? And I said, can I wait for my husband, please? And they said, no, you can't. You have to make that decision now. And I said, but I can't. It's a joint decision. And they said, no, it's not. You have to make that decision. So I made the decision to save 2 babies' lives because that's what you think is the right decision. And unfortunately, they were born. That's not the unfortunate bit. They were born. They lived for 8 hours, but they then passed away. And so they died. They came into the world 10 minutes apart. They went out of the world 10 minutes apart. And at that point, the bottom fell out of my world, in all honesty. And I don't remember a lot about that time, in all honesty.
Blocked it out.
I've blocked it out. And we'll talk about my other children later, but I don't remember the NICU that the children were in. Now, my other child, Jacob, my youngest child now, he spent time in the NICU and I had to walk past where Imogen and Oliver were. I do not remember being in that room at all. I remember Jacob's time there, but I don't remember Imogen and Oliver's time there. And so once they passed away, I did what lots of people do during grief. So the military gave me 6 months compassionate leave. I didn't take 6 months. I took 3 months because I needed a reason to get up in the mornings. And I needed something to get me up and out of bed and whatever else. But I did what a lot of people do during grief is I spent money. We bought new double glazing, new central heating, you name it, we did it. We did up the house, we did all of those things. And I found myself sat on the fixing things, yeah. And it was just filling things, filling space, filling time. And I found myself one day sat on the living room floor trying to get hold of I think it was either a gas fitter or a double glazing guy. I just couldn't get hold of him. And we'd asked for all these quotes and we were waiting for them to come back in. And I literally sat on the floor and thought, do you need admin support on a pay-as-you-go basis? Why is nobody doing this sort of thing? And at that point, I was telling the Navy I was leaving. And a very senior officer said to me, Amanda, you're going nowhere. You're 18 months from pension. You are going nowhere. And I said, sir, I'm going. He said, no, you're not. I said, I am. He said, you're not. I said, I am. He said, no.
Were you at sea at this point or was this on land?
No, I was on land. He's like, and it was effectively the person who was head of my trade. And he said to me, Amanda, you're going nowhere. He said, you are 18 months from pension. We will do whatever we have to do to get you to that point. And then you can go. So I was like, okay, all right. So, but this was still rumbling in my head that I wanted to create this pay-as-you-go admin support. So I rang an insurance company and said, thinking about doing this business where I do pay-as-you-go admin support as and when you need it for tradespeople. And the guy said to me, he said, so you're going to be a VA? I said, a what? He said, you're going to be a VA, a virtual assistant. I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he said, well, there's a whole industry out there that does pay-as-you-go admin support as and when you need it. All those things you're saying, it's already out there. It's called the VA industry. I was like, oh, I haven't created this then. And he said, no, you haven't created it. And I think it was like, no, you haven't created it, love. It was that sort of really, he was just like horrified that I didn't know that this was there.
But you must know, like in 2025, there's still people that think they've created this job, isn't there?
Exactly. And back there, I mean, at that point, it had been in the UK for quite a long time, but the military don't work with virtual assistants. So it wasn't on the agenda. I was just, oh, okay. So fast forward, I went back to work after 3 months. I did a shore job. I then had 3 miscarriages, and what the various bits that entails. Then went off to Fuerteventura, came home from Fuerteventura, pregnant.
Something magic in Fuerteventura.
Exactly.
I never knew this.
Exactly. Want to get pregnant, go to Fuerteventura.
You're going to worry if I go to Fuerteventura.
I will, yes. But fell pregnant with James, who's now my eldest, so he's 15 now. Had him. If he came early and I finished work at the point he came, I would have missed my military pension. So with the sort of the advice from the medical professionals and all of that was he is likely to come early.
Yeah.
So I stayed. I had to say to the military, no, I'm going to take maternity. I will come back after my maternity, which is what I did, which is a good job because he came at 36 weeks.
36 weeks, did you? Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah.
He was 30. He lasted to 36. And then, so I went back to work. At that point, the military started to announce voluntary redundancies. And so I said, candidate for redundancy. And they were like, not your trade, not your age group, not your number of years service.
They weren't letting you leave.
No. So they then said, would you go to Belgium? You've always been a candidate to go abroad, work abroad. Would you go to Belgium? I said, yeah. I said, but I still want redundancy. And then they opened up redundancy in my trade, my rank, and number of years service. So I said, still want to go, still a candidate. And it's really interesting. I loved the military, but actually I realised there's more to life than being away.
Your whole life had changed. And before we move on, I want to say thank you for sharing. So, it's baby loss week now, I know. So thank you. I want to raise awareness for that and say thank you, because I know a lot of people out there who'll be struggling during this time raising that awareness. But I think there's something in that grief as well that completely changes you, which is what you're also saying with this story, is that the Amanda who'd gone to the military completely changed during that period.
It's not Amanda now. It really isn't. And so I did go to Belgium. I sold my house. Shouldn't have probably done that, but hey, that's fine. Sold my house, went to Belgium, took voluntary redundancy, but tried to get pregnant, had 3 more miscarriages, then fell pregnant with Jacob. And at that point, the consultant said, Amanda, no more. So it was like, okay. He said, no more children. So it's like, okay, all right. Yeah. He was like, body can't cope. So so we have James and Jacob.
What your body has gone through, with 4 children and then and the miscarriages as well. That's wow. Yeah.
And so Imogen and Oliver's was a emergency cesarean, and James was not an easy cesarean. So actually, by the time Jacob came along, it was
just take him out.
Don't do any more, Amanda.
Did Jacob go in NICU as well? I can't remember. Or was it just James?
Yeah, no. So James didn't go into the NICU. So even though he was born at 36, he didn't go into NICU. But Jacob was born and then he came out fine. 3 hours later, he had pneumonia and ended up in NICU. So he was there for a week. So so he spent a week there, then came out and then went back a month later with bronchiolitis.
Gosh, God, yeah. And you had them all in the same hospital as well.
All in the same hospital, all in the same thing. And we were very lucky when the twins died. There's a charity at Paul Hospital called Spring, which is supporting parents and relatives in neonatal grief. And it's a charity I didn't know existed. I didn't know it needed to exist at that point. But they looked after us. They really did look after us. They had a suite where we could spend time together, Andrew and I, sort of thing, with the babies and all of that. Every time we then fell pregnant and had to go back there, you're reliving walking past those rooms every time you do it. And I don't know about you, but I used to get really cross. You'd walk outside the hospital and there would be people doing things that you didn't do in your pregnancy. Smoke, whatever. I just wanted to murder them. And I know that sounds really unkind. But when Imogen and Oliver were born and died, the people in the room next to us, their baby was born with a drug addiction. And it was so hard because we were at the bottom of our world and these people were doing that. And it was just like, no, sorry.
Yeah.
And I get everybody has different things in their life, but actually that was the hardest bit. So every time we go back to that hospital, it's almost that even now I can feel how I felt back then.
The rage. It's kind of part of the process as well, and then understand. I don't know, for me it's very different, and we were lucky not to lose Jasper, but going in, it's for me as well, because it was during COVID and it was so isolating. And I go now and there's lots of posters about things you can do, bringing siblings in and hanging out with other parents. And I'm like, I didn't get any, all of these things. And it's like, it's a different place, even though it's the same place kind of thing. And you have to process all of those feelings of valid, and you have to process that. And it's I mean, I felt that at the time actually during COVID, because there were some families hanging out there, and I'd be like, well, why am I so isolated? And you're breaking all the rules. Who's telling you off? And
you almost become that want to tell them off, and you want to be the disciplinarian that goes, no, go away.
Especially when And yeah, like you said, with the drug addict trial, processing what your body's gone through. I don't like to bring this up. I think externally, people want reasons for everything, and sometimes there's no reasons for things. So we both know, don't we?
Well, that's a so going back to Imogen and Oliver, when they passed, I am a control freak. I do like a list, I will be honest. And I still have the list in my file of facts, but I literally wrote all the questions that I needed answer for. And we went in to see the consultant, and he'd allowed 15 minutes to talk about my children's death. And I wasn't very happy with that. So after 2 hours, my husband said to me, "It's time to go." And I said, "But I still haven't got the answers." And he said, "You're not going to get the answers. We are going. This is causing you more hurt." And he couldn't answer it. He couldn't answer a lot of my questions, but I had pages and pages of questions in my file of facts written out. And so the paediatrician that looked after the children in the NICU, he said, "I'll talk to you." And he was amazing. He sat down and he answered all of my questions honestly and openly, which the other guy was sort of trying to fudge me off and just get rid of me. But this guy answered them, and my children would have been very poorly. And I would not have wanted my children to suffer. And the reality was they would have. And so he openly and sat down and he said, "Amanda, do you really understand this?" And so I was like, "Okay, I don't like what you're telling me. I don't want to hear what you're telling me, but thank you for your honesty." And that was actually part of my grieving cycle. As hard as it was to hear it all, and there's bits of those, I don't remember bits of those conversations now. I don't remember my time in his office or any of those things, but it was part of the grieving cycle.
I think that's also important to clear, is that so much you don't remember. Like, I actually was just doing some filing the other day, and Jasper's report, because when a baby, you would have had an external report. There's an external report that gets done by HSIB when a child dies, a mother dies, or what Jasper went through, and a child has to get called for risk of brain damage. And there's stuff I read in there, and I'm like, I don't remember this happening. And I've read the report several times now, and it is, you just keep blocking it out. It's a very strange process, isn't it?
It's a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
It is about protecting you. But there are bits of it I do not remember.
Yeah.
There are days when I go, I want to remember, but there are days also I go, no, you don't need to remember.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It is a coping mechanism, especially when it comes to a parent and a child. It's for how you can keep going, is to not remember. Do you think there is, having seen my journey and knowing your journey and other people's journeys as well, do you think there's something in this focusing on a business after something like this as a coping mechanism?
Yeah, because actually your business is your baby in a way. You're helping it build and grow, and you birth it, you help it build, you help it grow, it becomes a toddler phase. You have all those phases in business as you do with a child, in all honesty.
When's the get older, retire phase?
I was just sat here having told my husband he wasn't allowed to make any noise. He's just come in and made noise in my kitchen. I'm deciding marriage is a little bit like having this phase as well. Been married 30
Well,
years.
they do what they're told and don't do what they're told.
Yes, that's a bit like that. But business can be a little bit like that, and it can be a distraction mechanism. I know when I left the military, and people always laugh at this, but when I left the military, I wanted a job where I had no staff, no appraisals, no budget, no responsibility. I wanted to get up, take my child to nursery or school or whatever, come home or go to work and then come home. There was none of this homeworking stuff.
Yeah.
But the reality was I would apply for jobs and everybody would go, "Oh, you're overqualified."
Were you? So did you apply for jobs as well?
I did, yeah. So when I left the military, as I was leaving the military, going through my resettlement phase, I was applying for jobs, but I was overqualified. And they'd go, "Yeah, but you'll be bored." And I was like, "But I don't want any stress, budgets, appraisals." And I would list this long list. They'd say, "Yeah, but in 6 months you'd want more." And to be fair, they were probably right. But I just didn't want any of those things. And so that's at the point I was still serving, but getting ready to leave. And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go and create that business." So that's when I actually did my VA training, started launching my business. So I left the military on the 11th of December 2012 and launched my company the following day. On my first day of not being in the military is when I actually launched my business.
Had you put the plans in motion?
I put the plans in my final 3 months of military service was actually when I was getting everything ready.
Yeah.
So literally, because you're not allowed an additional income whilst you're serving. So literally finished military on the 11th, 23:59, and effectively your executive secretary was born at midnight on the 12th. And on that 12th of December.
Oh, that's with birthday.
Yeah. So it was 12th of the 12th of the 12th.
Oh.
And I literally went networking for the first time that day.
Oh my goodness. And when was your first client then, for anyone wondering when Amanda Johnson's first client was?
January 2013.
Good. So within your first month, obviously you took some time. You went networking. And what was your first client?
So first small client was somebody to do Twitter, which was interesting because I was still learning it. And basically, I offered it at a severely discounted rate so people say, oh, do it for free or whatever, get the testimonial. No, I still needed to bill for it, but I did it at a discounted rate, but with a clause that said at this point, it will go up to this rate. And at that point, you can either stay or you can go. But in the 12 months that I do this, I'm going to use your account as part of my learning journey. And they were like, yeah, cool, great. So that was, but it was a small client. My first big client also came on board in January 2013, and it was a guy to help him run events and all of that, do his admin, run events, and had a contract, all of those things, and he didn't pay his bill. And so, I took him to small claims court, or I took him to money claim online sort of thing, small claims court. And we settled out of court on the Friday before we were due in court on the Monday. And the reason we settled is because I had a contract and his solicitor said, she will win. She has everything laid out.
T's crossed, I's dotted.
All of the emails that had said, you've asked me to do X, Y, Z. But in his opinion, these are his words, not mine. You're new in business. You're a woman in business. Everybody knows me. What are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, that's a red rag to the bull. Because at that point, I was still military in my head. I'd only been out the military a couple of months sort of thing. And it was like, no.
And that's not fair. So there we go. A lesson in contracts from the beginning from Amanda Johnson herself. And I also like to raise awareness because I think you built this when Jacob and James were so young. And I think I always remember you saying to me, because I kind of definitely felt aligned with this, with my journey, with my business, was that my goal was to get enough money to be able to send my kids to nursery. And I think sometimes there's still that mindset struggle that some people think they can work from home and do the child rearing. So I always like to raise awareness because I felt a similar. Paul was like, right, I need nursery. How am I going to afford it? So
my initial goal was to earn £45 a day that I could put James to nursery. Because what you need to remember is that was what it costed, £45 a day. I know, £45 a day.
Dog daycare now in London.
but remember, Jacob wasn't even born at this stage. Jacob wasn't even a twinkle at this particular point. So it was £45 a day in order to put James to nursery, and then go from there. And it's also about knowing what's right for you. So I've worked with VAs over the years who and I'm going to describe this like this, want to be mum on Mondays, want to be mum on Fridays, but run their VA business Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So they want to earn enough for their child to go into nursery Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's fine too. This has got to be what's right for you and your family, not the world according to somebody who says, no, you must put your child there 5 days a week. Or
and I think I have to say that you were so helpful to kind of give me that permission, because I was strict with, I was 2 days and then until school strict with mummy Wednesdays till the end. I think it helped me be that stricter and now be able to provide that for others, is knowing you can make up those rules.
This is your business, it's nobody else's.
Yeah, and you've got to find clients aligned with that as well. And because the ones not aligned aren't the right clients. So,
And that can be the hard bit. So there are people who say to me, oh, yeah, but my clients need me Monday to Friday. Well, fine. They're not the right clients for your VA business then, if you only want to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so you can't have everything in that one. You can't go, yeah, but I'll take that client. Oh, shit, I can't do that. No, you have to manage what fits the business. So this is, sorry to interrupt you there, this
No.
is where I believe in work-life integration rather than work-life balance, because work-life integration is conscious decisions based on your situation and what you want to achieve, whereas work-life balance for me feels like I've got to compromise on something, whereas actually integration, I'm going to make those conscious decisions, and that might mean sometimes I'm working of an evening or I'm working every weekend, but that's my choice because there's a payoff somewhere else that allows me to do something else.
I think integration is it maybe more flexible as well, of like, okay, well, this week the kids are easy, but a lot of the clients are kicking off. And so I've got to do a few phone calls later in the day than I normally would. But then the following week, it'll be like, I've got a week full of school events that I want to prioritize and I'm going to do that kind of thing. And it kind of feels more flexible to me because you have got, and being aware you're serving your clients, because I know you're all about service as well, obviously, with your background, but you're serving your clients, serving your team, whatever it's needed from you, as well as serving your children in the, you know, and being more, it does sound more flexible to me, the integration part, than the actual balance part, because you're constantly striving for something that might not exist, kind of the other way.
It's exactly that. It is. It's you're striving for something that may not exist. But actually integrating it also for me has allowed me to teach my children from a really young age, actually, oh, do you know what? If I'm going to work Thursday evening or whatever it is, it's so that we can go and do this. Or even nowadays, when running Get Shit Done days and the VA mastermind days, it's a classic example. I work one Saturday every quarter, but I take a longer time off in the summer. And the children know that that's just one of those things because I've always done it. They quite enjoy it because invariably dad lets them do whatever else when I'm not here. It's about integration.
Because your coaching style is definitely described as tough love meets empathy.
Okay, I like that.
Because you have all the empathy, but it is, I think that's what's so important as well with the integration and the clients and everything. It's kind of like knowing that you can't have it all, say I'm going to work these 2 hours and want to earn this, and maybe something has to give, kind of, with your coaching style.
Very honest, very direct. Don't call a spade, yes. But at the same time, I care. And that, I think, is the empathetic sort of thing. I really do care about the people, but it's also about giving people the permission that they can do what's right for them. So, yes, I always chuckle. Yes, my brand is pink. When I started my companies, grey was because it's a safe and secure colour. The pink was, magenta pink is a confidence colour. Do you know what? I didn't like the colour pink. Now, anybody who's seen my branding would go, really?
And you wear pink everywhere.
But it's part of the brand and people associate it with it. So I've grown to like it. But it's all about instilling that confidence in somebody that they can do what's right for them. Yeah, sometimes that does take tough love. And I always describe myself as not pink and fluffy, but actually I care. I really do care about people.
I can vouch for that. I remember one time I got all prepped for, as I would, for a coaching call with you. I had my list of things and you're like, how are you? All of that. And you went, why do you look sad? And I just burst into tears. I had no idea I was sad. I was. And then we ran through it and what had happened. I'd been triggered by something with a client and something to do with Jasper. And you're like, you need to take the day. And I was like, and you were absolutely right. And that's where that care comes in from someone. It's like, you knew today wasn't to go through my list I had.
No, we can do that another day because it wasn't going to. And actually, you wouldn't necessarily be, had we have gone through that list that day, you wouldn't be giving your best self. And that's a really interesting one to learn. I've had to learn that as a coach as well, to know, actually, do you know what? You need to be open and honest with your clients and say, do you know what? If I coach today, you're not going to get the best version of me. And it's okay to be honest with somebody and say, you're not going to get the best version of me. Can I come back tomorrow or whatever? Because actually, I just need to go and do X, Y, Z.
And I think that's a much better way of being. I'd rather someone come to me and is honest rather than making up an excuse. And I'm like, what's going on there? Like, this is weird, rather than going, oh, they're having a really bad day. I might not need to know the details, but like I think that's a much better, I try to live my life with that as well. And I do the same with everyone around me. But you've just sometimes got to be aware of that. I think that's clearly in that moment with you, I had no awareness of my feelings. I think that can be the challenge for some people as well, can't it?
It's one of the reasons I do calls on Zoom or on video call or whatever. And it's so that you can read the body language.
Yeah.
And to be able to see if something lands. So am what I'm saying landing, or is it going straight over somebody's head, or have I totally missed the mark, and all of those things. So body language can really play, because sometimes you'll jump on a call and somebody will be saying, oh yeah, I want to talk to you about X, Y, Z. And you can see damn well that's not what they want to talk about, but they're not ready to share what they want to share. But it's almost like, okay, what else? And eventually, it's not that I'm trying to make my clients cry or upset or sad or whatever.
We didn't cry on all the calls.
Thank you. but sometimes you've got to give somebody that space, because actually you might be the only person they're going to open up to.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. And that's something I've probably learned as a VA agency owner, is sometimes I might be that person they've spoken to that day and things like that. And I think that's sometimes you learn as a business owner, no matter what, a coach or a leader in it, you could be in this virtual world the only person they've actually spoken to that day or even that week sometimes I've felt. And that's a lot to handle with people. So I think that's teaching me some tricks with that.
I think that's where leadership and coaching comes in. So we might be the only VA in our business, but we are supporting other people. And therefore we do have to have an understanding of leadership management. We're not necessarily using those skills to build an agency like you have or whatever, but even as a solo VA who's got their fingers in lots of businesses or working with various people, you still have to understand the sort of core components of leadership and management to be able to support your clients better.
I am dying to ask you the question, because obviously you had your virtual assistant business agency, 17 people it was a team of.
Yeah.
And then what made you pivot to the VA Training Academy and go all in with that?
So, I believe in that we need to have 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 3-year goals, and 12 months from today goals. So when I launched Your Executive Secretary, my 5-year goal was to either have a team, franchise, or go into coaching, training, and mentoring. Now, actually, I took my team in 2013, so 1 year after launch. It was like, oh, okay, hold on a second. Those 5-year goals have come really close forwards to 12 months. And so I had a team, and that was great. And then in 2014, I became a licensed trainer for the people I had trained with. And then 6 months later, I bought their company, and I ran my doing business alongside my training business, and I had the two running. But also in 2014, my husband launched his own company. So in 2014, we had 3 businesses, 2 young children, neither of whom slept. And so fast forward to 2016, we still had 3 businesses and 2 children that didn't sleep. And therefore I didn't sleep. And so something had to give. And for me, I've always wanted to be the person that makes a difference. And yes, I was making a difference as a VA agency, but I was also making a difference to others as a coach and a trainer and a mentor. So I had to look at the two and go, do you know what? Actually, I love this bit. I love the making a difference to others, to have the same lifestyle that I had, or that freedom or flexibility to be there for their families and whatever. And so I closed my agency. Well, I sold my agency, sold my clients, sold my brand and all of that. And then went all in on coaching, training and mentoring.
What was it like in practice selling your agency? Did you have a plan in mind for a figure you wanted, or was it a case of like you just wanted someone who was the right fit? So
I wanted somebody that was the right fit for the brand.
Yeah.
And actually, my clients, I mostly sold to my team that were looking.
So you sold the clients individually to them?
Yeah. So because my agency isn't as big as, or wasn't as big as your agency or some of the other agencies out there. And actually, I didn't know I could sell to a much bigger organisation or whatever else. And so it was like, okay, what works? But I also knew I had a great website, a great brand, a great reputation, and there were people looking for that brand. So it was like, okay, hold on, what works here? So unfortunately, there's no one size fits all.
No.
I've supported so many VAs over the years who have either closed or sold their businesses. And do you know what? I don't think any one person has done it the same way.
Oh, interesting.
So they're very different. Literally, I look back over the years and think, yeah, they've all done it in a different way.
What's a common thing you see with people coming into the industry expecting one thing? What's the most common thing where people are like, I didn't expect it to be like this?
How much money they can earn
Really? In a good way or a bad way?
in a good way.
Okay.
So I think a lot of VAs think they'll get their first. Well, unfortunately, there is social media out there and people out there who have led people to believe that you can be earning six figures in 6 months and just using one social channel in order to market your business. When it's all passive, you'll only have to work 10 hours a week. It's all a load of rubbish. So I think that hasn't helped us. So when people arrive in the industry, they think they're going to be fully booked within a month or whatever. And yeah, do you know what? Some VAs are, but most VAs are not fully booked within a month. It takes time. You've got to build the know, like, trust. You've got to find the right people who want to work with you to grow and all of that. So that takes time. But actually, when you really sort of build it as a second career and you treat it as a business and not as a hobby or a passion project or whatever, you treat it as a proper business and give it the time, the effort, the resources it needs, do you know what? Actually, people are often surprised of what they can scale and grow. So let me reverse the question. Did you think within 5 years you would have a team? Because you're 5 years now, 4 years now?
5.
5. Did you think you'd have a team this size?
Probably, yeah, because
You did.
But also I did because, my background. I'd been in an agency run by 2 young men who are very ambitious, and I was a bit ballsy, and I was like, well, if they can do it, why can't I, kind of thing? Because I
Exactly.
basically did a lot of it for
Yeah.
So that's probably why I'm here, isn't it? Because I knew
But you had a vision. You had a vision and a goal, and you were going to go out there and get it. But some of the things that you ticked off over these last 5 years have probably come a little bit earlier than you thought,
Yeah.
or hitting different things, or doing some of those other projects. But for a lot of people, they think it's just going to be them at home, and it's like, no, you can create this to be what you want to create.
Yeah.
But it's nobody's going to earn just them from their home office. If you want to earn those sorts of figures, you are going to have a team, and it doesn't have to be a huge team, but you are going to have a team, and putting those steps in.
And it's knowing what you want, if you want a team, and the responsibilities that do come with that as well. And sometimes that on social media isn't always communicated either, and it's seen as passive. You just get other people to do work, and it's like, I very much have a job over here, as you know, Amanda.
I have a role to play in this. Yes.
Sadly, I am not just sat here on the podcast drinking cups of tea, although actually I didn't even drink my cup of tea, but that would have been And do you ever think, it's also, you think it's been like often what people think about this world, because it is a very female industry. I'm proud to say we've got 2 men on the upsource team, and there are more men out there, which we are very pleased about, because it's good to have diversity in all industries, and I lead with that. But do you think there is a legacy with some of the barriers of the assistant world or virtual assistant world because of them, and like things we can do to change it?
97% of the VA industry are female. 97% of the admin professional world generally is female. So the reality is, it is one of those female-heavy industries. Male VAs tend to run very different businesses to female VAs.
Do they?
They tend to run them a little bit like where you've previously worked. It tends to be,
yes, the large ones, and they've not been assistant background, which is why I'm very passionate about that representation in the agency world.
Exactly. And that's the thing. But they tend to run very different businesses, or they tend to be very tech heavy. So often they might lead a business, but they'll have others that do the work, or they might be very tech heavy and be very much about the tech or the data and all of that. So I think, is it a barrier? No, but I think there is a culture there still that the admin profession is still heavily female, and therefore there are some individuals that, you're just the woman that does type thing, which is a real shitty, horrible thing. And it's like, yeah, okay, we've got to get rid of that mentality.
Because that has a knock-on impact, because for me, I've seen it means women in their jobs haven't had the feedback they should have. They haven't had the progression they should have. or development they should have. And, we know that within our roles within larger organizations don't always get the funding immediately to be developed or the opportunities to progress within that organization. So I think there's still a long way to go on lots of those areas. But the thing, the VA world is really helping it at the same time with those attitudes.
I think for me, though, you see, I come from a very male-dominated industry
Yeah.
where actually you were promoted not based on gender, you were
Yeah.
based on performance. So to come out into what I call the real world, it was just like, what do you mean you're
It's not all
promoting?
fair.
No, I don't like this. It's not fair. But I come from an industry where it was fair. So to come out here, it was like, oh, okay. So when people talk about like glass ceilings and all of that, I'm like, well, just smash through it. Just, you can create what you want to create. It might not be an easy path to get there, but you can go and create that path if you want to.
Yeah. I think that's what's really passionate, is that we say you can do it, and it might be more challenges. Or I think we had Rachel from Coral, founder of a business called Coral Kids. She's like, use it to your advantage. Of like, she's like, I stand out because I'm the woman in the room, and I'm going to use that to my advantage, which I also think is very empowering as well. And to do a full circle back to your military world, like obviously that's been a huge part of your life, your background. So how do you use that to, support that in the entrepreneur world, people who've also come from veteran backgrounds, military partners and things? How are you part of that community?
So I am a veteran. I'm very proud of my 23 years service. Husband did 25 years service. But when I was still serving, and sort of the head of a department or the deputy head of a department or the divisional officer, which is a divisional officer is somebody who's got responsibility for like pastoral care within an organisation. They're almost like the people. The one thing I used to find really hard is I would often have people say to me, boss, I don't want to take that job because the wife, and it was often young men, the wife will have to give up her job. Or the wife has already moved 3 times and she's really fed up because we get somewhere and we can't get a job. And it was often men would say that because the military is predominantly male. The females who were going to those jobs, whose husbands followed them, would have a much harder time because quite often in some places around the world, you'd have a wives program or a wives work program. And the men would go, well, actually, I'm accompanying my wife and she's the serving person and I'm trying to get this job. And what I found was there was a lot of good people saying no to jobs because their partners was going to have to give up their jobs. And so for me, the VA industry is a fantastic portable career. It can be done pretty much anywhere. And what we need to remember is for military people, even when they're serving overseas, living in military accommodation or military married quarters, that's classed as sovereign land. So actually the wives or the partners can create this VA business and still work as if they were in the UK.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah,
because it's classed as sovereign territory. So for me, the VA industry is a fantastic portable career that allows military spouses to still have a business, to still earn money, but actually also be valued for what they're doing. So the military spouse bit was born from that because actually it was like, do you know what? You don't have to give up your business. You don't have to give up your job. You can still have this thing.
Hold your own identity away from the service wife partner title.
Title, You're not just the spouse of or whatever. You're actually still you as a business owner and still doing your thing. So that was why I'm really passionate about helping military spouses. But veterans also, when a veteran leaves the service, you are not encouraged to go into self-employment. Because it's all stats driven and there are government agencies out there that help military people to get into employed roles, and then they have to report that they're still there at 6 months and still there at 12 months and still there at 3 years. So you're not encouraged to go self-employed because you buck for stats.
They want to show that you've done well outside the service whilst getting employed. I get that, yeah.
Whereas actually military people have fantastic transferable skills to bring to the business world. They don't necessarily always understand the language. And that was one of the big things I had to adapt was, okay, what do you mean we don't do this JSP 101, which is the military way of writing paperwork or letters or whatever? It's like, I can choose whether I have bold or underline. Yeah. because I've had it stamped through me for 23 years that you do things in a certain way. So there is an element of allowing military people to go, no, you can do this in a different way. It doesn't have to be the military way. So yeah, that's why I'm passionate about supporting those people, because they've got transferable skills. They've got great skills. And actually, we've just got to get them out into the wider world.
You certainly can help that. And I love to see your journey. So for now, I want to see what success looks like for you next, but I'd also like to see what would the Amanda who's just starting out, still in the depths of grief, feel about the Amanda now, do you think? What do you think you could say to her about what you've got to?
Believe in yourself. It is a journey, though. There are days where it's absolutely crap journey.
And I have to say, I feel like you've been amazing with that for me to be a guy. I know the whole like social media cliche, like it's not linear and things like that. But for you've been the one who's been like, on this date each year, you might feel this, and that's just the way it is. And I think I think that's really good learning for anyone who's been through grief or loss, is that it's going to be certain trigger points, and it might be dates you don't expect or something, isn't it?
Absolutely. So to give you an example, on Imogen and Oliver's birthday, I never ever book clients in. I still work, but I don't book clients in because I cannot tell you how I'm going to feel on that day.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm like, yeah, do you know what? I'm going to go and put balloons on their grave, and I'm going to go and have lunch and a cake and whatever else. And other times I could sit here and cry all day. I think I shared with you recently, I was listening to an audiobook and was listening to it on the school run. I drove home and I sat down, and Jacob was in our cinema room, and I sat down next to Jacob, and Jacob said to me, "What are you doing, Mum?" I said, "I'm just going through Imogen and Oliver's memory box." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because I just need to." And he's like, "Okay." And I'm sat there, floods and floods of tears, and I've got this like 10-year-old just looking at me going, "Okay." And I said, "It's all right. I'm okay. I just needed to go through the box." And he's like, "Okay." He didn't leave my side. He didn't speak. He just carried on doing what he was doing. But every so often you just get this little sly look, and then he put his hand across going, "You're all right, Mum." And there are days when I have like that. And then there are other days when actually I can talk about them and I'm absolutely open about it. Driving home on the school run this morning, I was like, okay, interesting. Caroline and I are talking in Baby Loss Awareness Week. And
I think we both might have had the same thoughts this morning.
yeah, I was like, how do I feel? Am I actually okay to do this?
Yes.
And I'm like, yes, you are okay to do it. And it will be okay if your eyes fill up, and it will be okay if you do those things. But at the end of the day, you never ever get over baby loss. I am a different person to the person I was then. I can't tell you what's different, but I am a different person. You have to do what's right for you. And that is a real cliche. And like you say, it's not linear and all. No, it's not. But do you know what? I will do what's right for me.
That's such an important lesson you taught your son then, of like, you needed to do that, so you did it, and you didn't hide it away. You didn't get snappy at anyone. You just did what you needed to do, and you didn't hide it either. And I think maybe in times gone by, past parents would have put it down. And I think that's such an important lesson you can now bring to the future of like your sons now, that you can be open with grief and they can see it and it's okay.
Yeah. And I think we've got to do that. And to be fair, both James and Jacob know Imogen and Oliver fully. If you ask them, do they have any brothers or sisters? They will often say, yes, we've got two that are in heaven and things like that. It changes as they get older. I think it's young children talk about it in a very different way to older children. But they know that we celebrate their birthday. They know that we do those things. I've been joking at dinner the other day that are we going to have an 18th birthday party for them next year? And I know that the boys may still be at school, but Andrew and I will go out for lunch and do something. We haven't talked about that actually. Nobody ever thinks about the partner during grief. They only think about us as the woman. They never ever think about our husbands or the other person in this. Andrew and I, that's why we left the military to go and do this together, is because we were both on this path. We were both at rock bottom.
Yeah.
And we were both each other's lifeline to get through this.
Like to get through it together and
Yeah.
here now to celebrate 18 years later, almost their birthdays, is a credit to your relationship. Absolutely.
It's quite scary too, actually.
It's quite scary, yeah.
to think they would have. That's the scary bit. No, but it's, if you think at 17 they would have been driving, or they would have done GCSEs. We've done driving. 18, we'd like doing those things. It's like, oh, okay, what's next? Oh my God, that's quite the scary thought.
And that's the milestones as well that other people don't see externally, that you're always going to be going through. And just thank you for sharing that with me today. I think that's so important during baby loss. It's not just about the baby loss, it's all the future milestones that you guys do together, and what a strong family and couple. I think what a really nice final bit would be to ask you, like, what have you found that has brought you joy to remember from all of this that you've achieved since you lost Imogen and Oliver? And what joy do you find as a family to bring that together?
I think joy is an interesting word, isn't it? Because Andrew and I are a partnership. Everything is a partnership, whether that's businesses, decisions, life decisions, house decisions. I never thought, once Imogen and Oliver died, I never thought we'd move house. I never thought we won't ever leave this area. But actually, we've gone on to move house once, twice, 3, 4 times.
Oh my goodness.
5 times. We've moved house since in 18 years. We've moved house 5 times. We've built a couple of houses. We've done various things. We take joy in even the small stuff as well as the big stuff. Doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. No. It's about taking time to stop and think and be grateful. Gratitude. That's the word. Or
find glimmers. Glimmers was another one. Someone say, I think glimmers might be in this sense a really lovely word as well.
It's just about actually going, that's okay. Imogen and Oliver will never be forgotten. Imogen and Oliver, I can't go back to the life pre that. I can't second guess what life would look like with them, although, yes, the milestones are important to think, okay, this is what we'd be doing or whatever. But at the same time, we have to I wouldn't have James or Jacob had Imogen and Oliver survive. So you have to look at those and think, do you know what? I've got one that's now 6 foot at 15 and one that's 5'5" at 11, and they'll tap me on the head or bend down and say, oh, is that what life looks like at your height, Mum?
Yeah, because they've never been there.
Cut you off at the knees. But you have to take joy in those things. So, I mean, nowadays, James has chronic fatigue, which means my life has changed again. So to answer your question of what does success look like for me, actually, it's about still having that freedom and flexibility to do what's right for my family. Yeah. And sometimes I sit here and go, oh yeah, I want to go and do that. And I think, actually, that doesn't fit at the moment because of 4 days a week. I spend 3 hours a day on school runs for James. Do you know what? That's success at the moment. Having the freedom to be able to be there for my son who needs me at the moment. And that's okay too.
And that's something I've learned hugely from parents with teenage children, is that I think they say you obsess when they're young, when they do this, I can do this. And then it just, something else comes up and you might need to be there for them in the teen years and things like that. And that's been my biggest learning, is that this just continues the way it is, and that is freedom. Amanda, thank you so much for sharing so openly and generously. And I know a lot of people in the community will get a lot of support and knowing they're not alone in this. And I think that's why we talk about it as well. Ultimately, you always share these things. There's other people that need that support who are a bit further behind in the journey or not in the journey yet and find this one day. So thank you, Amanda, for that. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or even enter the virtual assistant world?
The easiest place is probably to go to my website, which is vatrainingacademy.co.uk, or search for Amanda Johnson. Invariably look for somebody who's wearing pink. Please don't go for the Amanda Johnson who's a porn star.
It's fair.
Yes, that's why my VA business was never called Amanda Johnson or whatever. It was because, so look for Amanda Johnson VA trainer and people will find me.
Be specific.
Yes.
Oh, well, Amanda, thank you so much. Just thank you for today. I look forward to seeing what's next for you in the VACT world.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to Bump to Business Owner. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please do rate, review, follow, or subscribe wherever you're listening. It really helps us to connect with more mums and business owners. You can DM me on @BumpToBusinessOwner on Instagram, and I'll be back next week.